Welcome to another edition of Time About the Movie Flashback. We're flashing back to October 14th, 1988, and we got 4 movies to look at today, so why don't we just go ahead and jump on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, probably the most notable new release of the entire weekend, in terms of, importance in terms of Hollywood and Oscar considerations, because there were some Oscar winners in this movie. Jodie Foster and Kelly McGillis in The Accused.
Was brutally assaulted. Her lawyer betrayed her.
I don't have a case.
The system ignored her.
You ain't gonna defend me because I'm some low-class bimbo, right?
I didn't say that.
Her one chance is courage.
I need to tell my story.
There was no rape.
Her one weapon is dignity.
No deals.
Kelly McGillis, Jodie Foster, The Accused. Rated R. Starts Friday, October 14th at a theater near you.
Now, even though this came out in 1988, this actually comes all the way back to 1985, because if you look on YouTube and see a video for Paramount's Future from 1985, you can actually find where this movie was first initially announced, but it also had it under a different name.
From Jaffe Lansing Productions, a true story. A young woman is raped before a cheering barroom crowd. Who were the witnesses? What did they see? And what did they say they saw? A personal struggle for survival and justice. The new project from Stanley Jaffe and Sherry Lansing.
Because I guess the title, The New Project from Sherry Lansing and Stanley R. Jaffe, doesn't sell well as The Accused does. But you basically have the story that's loosely based on the 1983 gang rape of Cheryl Arugelo from New Bedford, Massachusetts. And this one's set in Washington State. We have Jodie Foster as this young waitress who's at a bar, and she gets gang raped by 3 men. And with the aid of this attorney, played by Kelly McGillis, she sets out to prosecute the rapists as well as the men who helped to induce the assault. And the film was very controversial when it came out, mostly because of the graphic representation of gang rape. But in terms of the film and the way it does it well enough because it's not being exploitive. It's not trying to be there just for the shock value and everything. It's not done with poor taste. It's actually there to serve a purpose, and it does a very good job of handling that. The script by Tom Twopour does a very good job of handling that, and the direction by Jonathan Kaplan also works very well too. We talked about his works before in the past, but really the greatest thing to come out of this movie are the performances by both Kelly McGillis and especially Jodie Foster, this was a big breakthrough for her, making her essential debut into more adult roles. And this was the one that, of course, won her an Academy Award, her first of 2 over the next 4 years, because she'd win again for Silence of the Lambs. And the way the film handles this very heavy subject matter is well done. Like, everything that happens in this movie, it does serve a purpose. It's not there to just be an exploitive element to the storyline. It does serve an overall purpose to the storyline, and it doesn't feel like it's manipulative. It doesn't feel like they're trying to force the emotions out of you. It earns every bit of it in this movie, and the way it handles itself is done very well. It's not a long film per se. It's just under 2 hours long, but it just moves along right off the bat. And for a film like this is a heavy subject matter. In fact, when this movie was test screened at Paramount, it actually had the lowest scores in the history of the studio, and the executives wanted to actually put this film on the shelf and were looking for ways to prevent it from being released. But Sherry Lansing, the producer of this, said, have another screening for it, but this time just do it with women. And it was much more successful. And of the 20 women in the room, 18 had experiences with rape. Either they had someone that they had been raped, and to test it once again, it actually got the highest scores in studio history. So it's a very difficult ladder to climb with a film like this. And really, I don't think you could have done this with any of the other actresses that were out at the time. Look at some of the names here that they thought about for this role. Kim Basinger, Demi Moore, Jennifer Beals, Meg Tilly, Rosanna Arquette, Kristen Davis, all rejected the film because of the controversial themes. Jane Fonda was considered for the role of the attorney, but she left the project and thought the script was exploitive and poorly written. And they had Ellen Barkin, Michelle Pfeiffer, Sigourney Weaver, Deborah Winger, Meryl Streep, Gina Davis were also considered for this, but they went with Kelly McGillis because of her bankable aspects, as she was just in Top Gun, which was the big hit of 1986, which, I mean, in a way, it did work, because her name was second billed to Tom Cruise on that film, so I guess it worked out for them in the long run. And like I said, Jodie Foster, she kind of needed this, because her career had kind of taken a little bit of a nosedive, because she took a sabbatical from Hollywood to go to Yale, and she did that mostly because of John Hinckley's assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan, which he carried out as a means to impress Foster, for whom he had been obsessed with after seeing her in Taxi Driver in '81. And basically, she had to get away from Hollywood for a little bit, and she followed her return to filming with this film, and she said that she would have retired from acting had The Accused not been a success, and in the end, it ended up providing a career. Not only she got one Oscar, she got 2 Oscars in the span of a couple of years. She's still recognized as one of the top actresses in Hollywood, even to this very day. So I'm glad it worked out for her in the end, but you can understand why she kind of felt like she had to get away from it all. But she let it work in this film. It works very well here. The writing is very good. The film does a very good job of handling such a heavy subject matter, but not feeling exploitive, not feeling like it's doing it for the sake of shock value or trying to get a cheap response out of anybody. It's a movie that's trying to do something right. It's trying to get people to know this is happening in real life, and this is a way to handle it very well here on film. It's a very good film. I would definitely say check it out. It's definitely well worth the watch. It's very uncomfortable, but it earns every bit of that uncomfortness because it's trying to serve a purpose to something critical that's happening in the world, even to this very day. And I think it does itself very well here. I can't recommend this movie enough. The Accused, definitely check that movie out. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Stan Winston's Pumpkinhead. So Pumpkinhead tells the story of this group of young adults who accidentally kill a young boy named Billy Harley. His father, Ed, is devastated, and the only thing he wants is revenge, and he goes to this old woman who is said to be a witch and conjures up a demon creature known as Pumpkinhead and unleashes him on the young adults. This is Stan Winston's first directorial effort after many, many years as a visual effects person. This was his first attempt at directing a film. He also co-wrote the script. And this film was not the big success when it came out, despite the fact that it had notable names like Lance Henriksen from Aliens and Mayim Bialik pre-Blossom in this film as well. I could have sworn I saw Linda Hamilton in there, but I could be wrong on that. But the film was not a big hit when it came out, and obviously that's kind of not that much of a surprise because most of these 80s horror films were not big successes early on, but they later went on to have cult followings over the years, and sure enough, those films ended up gaining the respect they wanted at the beginning later on down the road. The Pumpkinhead franchise has evolved into a direct-to-video franchise, 2 film sequels, a comic book series, there's even a reboot that's currently in the works now at Paramount, and you can definitely see why. It's a very unique and very stylized movie, and Stan Winston with those special effects, I mean, he really makes this creature look genuinely terrifying, and, you know, it's practical effects, man. I mean, practical effects will never get old. Even if they look bad in some movies, I will gladly take practical effects over over some of these CG effects that we have nowadays. Like, you just can't top what practical can do. Yeah, it takes a long time. Yeah, it can look very cheesy at times, but you know what? The thing is there. The monster is right there. And, you can't really do anything except honor that, and this is a very good, impressive directorial debut for Winston, who you really thought should have been doing more after this, but he just went back to doing what he does best, and it's a shame because I really think that he could be a really good director, given a good script to work with here, and you know maybe he should work on this reboot. I would like to see what he could do with this for the new generation, but we don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully he'll get a chance to do that. But the Pumpkinhead, really good film. Can't recommend it enough. So Pumpkinhead, right around the time this video comes out, around Halloween. Definitely a good time to check that one out. So on that note, we move on to the next film, and that is Shirley MacLaine in Madame Sousatzka.
Shirley MacLaine in a John Schlesinger film. Madame Sousatzka.
Sousatzka.
Yes, Sousatzka. It was my mom's name.
Sousatzka. Sousatzka.
So you have the story about this Bengali immigrant who lives in London with her son Manek, who is musically gifted. She supports them both as a caterer of Indian food, and while Manek studies piano with Madame Sousatzka, played by Shirley MacLaine, who's a Russian-American immigrant. She was highly talented, never succeeded as a pianist, and thus lives through her students, particularly talented ones such as Manek. Manek is soon forced to choose between her and his mother, who are both complete for his attention. I've never seen this film, and I don't know what the response on this movie is. Shirley MacLaine, it's Shirley MacLaine. I mean, Shirley MacLaine really does not usually do a whole lot of bad movies. She got a Golden Globe for this, which doesn't really say a whole lot because it's the Golden Globes. Peggy Ashcroft is also in here. She won an Academy Award a couple years ago for Passage to India. John Schlesinger directed this film. We talked about some of his films. Pacific Heights, Eye for an Eye, The Next Best Thing. Actually, we didn't get to The Next Best Thing yet. That's the last film he directed. But we've talked about his films before. But we haven't gotten really to the great stuff from him just yet. But as far as this film goes, like I said, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. I haven't heard too many good things about it, so I don't know. I don't know if it's any good or not, but it's probably not that bad. So that's Madame Sousatzka. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Woody Allen's Another Woman.
Slipped away.
I told you there was another man once. I sometimes wonder if I made the right choice.
Honestly, that's more terrifying, just having Mia Farrow staring blankly into your soul as the title showing up on there. I mean, good lord. Another Woman, this is, of course, Woody Allen, as I mentioned before, directed and wrote this film. It stars Jenna Rollins as a philosophy professor who accidentally overhears the private analysis of a stranger and finds the woman's regrets and despair awakens something personal in her. And this is a film that borrows heavily from Allen's idol, Ingmar Bergman, particularly the film Wild Strawberries, in which that film has a main character who's an elderly professor who learns from a close relative that his family hates him. This is not one of Woody Allen's more memorable films. In fact, it's a very, very short film. I was actually surprised when I saw the runtime for this was only 77 minutes long. And that's very, very short for this film. And you'd figure maybe short and sweet, get to the point and all that, but in this case, the movie, I don't think this one really knew exactly what direction it really wanted to go into. This was kind of in the middle of one of those lulls for Woody Allen. He had a couple years prior, he had Hannah and Her Sisters, which was one of his biggest successes, and he was kind of in this little bit of a lull between between that film and then also the film that kind of rejuvenated his career with Mighty Aphrodite. But he'd have these little films here and there. Some of them would be okay, some of them not so much. You'd have stuff like Radio Days, September, New York Stories, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Alice, Shadows and Fog, Husbands and Wives, Manhattan Murder Mystery, Bullets Over Broadway. There was a little bit of a lull there between 86 and 95, and I've liked Woody Allen's movies a lot, and this is one of those ones where I look at and just kind of like, yeah, this one's definitely not one of his best films. It's probably probably the best aspect to it is the visual look, the stylized look of the film. But at the same time now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, visuals don't make the movie. You need to have somewhat of a good idea to it and something that will actually make it worth it when it's all said and done. And despite the fact that this has a really damn good cast, Jenna Rollins, Mia Farrow, Ian Holm, Blythe Danner, Betty Buckley, John Houseman, Francis Conroy, Philip Bosco, Martha Plimpton, Gene Hackman, David Ogden Stiers, it just doesn't have enough there to really be considered a good Woody Allen film. Like, you expect more from him, and it just really doesn't do the trick. I just feel like it's a film that's lost in kind of what it was trying to be all along, and it just really doesn't have enough there to really make it one of his more memorable films. It's a film that's kind of mostly forgotten. Maybe for a one-time watch it's worth it, but I've never really had the intentions of ever going back to watching it again afterwards, but yeah, like I said, not one of his best films, but it's a Woody Allen film, so it's not downright terrible, but it's not one of his more memorable films per se. So that is Woody Allen's Another Woman. So on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies Flashback. We'll flash back to October 7th next time with only 2 movies, including Alien Nation and also the John Lennon documentary Imagine. We'll look at those 2 movies on the next episode, but until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and if you like this, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time for the next video, so until then, as always, Take care. See you next week.